Hey everybody, welcome to the Standard Action panel. Thank you for coming. Very exciting. That was episode 8 out of our first season. We've got a full first season online, so 14 episodes are up there for free. That's sort of one of the ones that sits right in the middle there, but there's about 3 hours of content that you can go and watch. I'm going to start with introductions, so let's start at the far end, and everybody can introduce themselves. So, Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm the Standard Action makeup artist. I do all the prosthetics and yeah.
I'm Jenny. I am a camera person and help out doing everything else like we all do.
My name is Carla, also known by the PAX community as Sumi. For season 1, I did the camera and production design.
And second season?
And second season, production design and a camera.
I'm Vanessa. I am an associate producer. I was in a couple of episodes. I did some assistant directing, and I am the costume designer. I was co-costume designer for season with Edwin, and then I was in charge of all the costumes for second season.
And I'm Edwin. I play Fernando. I'm an associate producer. I did co-costuming with Vanessa for season 1. And season 2, I got to just have fun.
I'm Joanna. I'm the writer and the producer. I also play Edda, the elf barbarian. I'm a voiceover actor and an actor in Vancouver. You also might recognize me from Starlit Citadel board game reviews, which we've just started doing.
I'm Rob. I'm the director of Standard Action. I was a camera the first season, and I did some camera the second season. I do all our post-production and visual effects and mastering. Joanna's actually been helping me out with editing. I also make the web series that Joanna's in, the Starlit Citadel Reviews. If you guys like board games, you should watch it because they teach you how to play some of them. And yeah, that's about it.
Cool. So this is only sort of, this is a relatively large amount of people for a panel for us, which is great, but we do have a pretty small team. Usually we've got about sort of, 10 to 15 people on set at a time, so we try to keep it pretty small.
One of our very important people from first season was one of our sound guys there, Eric.
Sitting in the back.
First season wouldn't have happened without him helping, so he's very humble.
So I'm going to get Edwin to tell us a little bit about the background of the show.
All right.
Edwin.
Cool. If this goes too fast, it's because I've had a double shot of this. The web series began when I was filming on Rob's feature film. This is what, 2010? Yeah, something
10,
like that.
9, 10,
10, 9, something like that. We were just finishing up on his feature, and we were chatting about, we were just talking, and it came out that they played Dungeons and Dragons. I played Dungeons and Dragons. And we finally got into this huge discussion about it. Rob pointed out that Joanna had written a couple of episodes for this project that she had sort of envisioned, and I got her to send me the scripts. I read through them. I thought, this is awesome. I would love to be a part of this. We went back and forth afterwards about potentially filming something, and then within like 2 weeks we were sitting in their living room figuring out what we were going to do. And from that came episode 0, when we just took a very bare bones crew out there. It was like 5 of us.
Ashley
out there. Ashley was one of them, yeah. And we went out there and thought, okay, what can we do in one day? What can we shoot in one day? And that's what episode 0 was all about. After that, it just became a bit of a roller coaster. We started shooting, we set up for, episode 1, then episode 2, and then it just took on a life of itself. And suddenly, every 2-3 weeks, we were filming and putting something out. And it was, it genuinely took on a life of its own. Joanna was writing as we were filming, and yeah. But anyways, to sum that up, it was that's where it began. That's how we started. It was this idea, like, went from script to a 1 day of shooting that suddenly just took off, and suddenly we're here, and we, shot season 2.
And actually, one of the big things about the background was finding Edwin, because one of the really challenging things that Rob was always bringing up about the fact that we were writing fantasy was like, the big stumbling block for fantasy is costuming. Like, you realize this is going to be really hard. And fortunately, we found Edwin, who was able to start us out on the costuming.
That's right. Yeah.
That was really important.
For me, once we started talking about this project, it was also very important that costuming be done properly. And I don't have a background in costumes. I just love making costumes. Halloween's my favorite time of the year, and I had a Hobbit costume from.
Make you sew?
No, your
My
mom.
no, my
Your
mom.
did?
My
Yeah.
mom was a seamstress, and so was my aunt. And you know, to keep me out of trouble as a kid, they would just like put me to help them out or do work. And so that's where I learned to sew and make stuff. But anyways, costume was really important for us. We talked about this. I jumped on board to do the costumes right away because I wanted it to be, you know, more than, I don't know, just like your basics, right? And thankfully, we got Vanessa along the way, who is a professional costume designer, and that made it a lot easier for myself for season 1, and it definitely brought up the production value on that stuff.
You want to tell us about season 1, Vanessa?
Yeah, season 1, I wasn't on board for the trailer, episode 0, but that was shot in October, November of 2010.
Yep.
And then I came on shortly after that to do costumes and some PA work and to help with media and marketing and PR. And we shot the first episode in December, The Barbarian.
December.
Right around December 2010, and then we continued to shoot all the way through early September of 2011. There was a while there where we were probably a few solid 3 to 4 months where we were shooting every 2 weeks, and we would shoot anywhere from, I think the least amount of pages we did in a day was 5, and the most I think we did was 12 or 13, which is, if you know anything about the film industry, 12 to 13 pages a day is massive. But we have a really small, tight-knit crew, and we were able to move really fast. And yeah, one of the cool things about us for first season that not a lot of web series do is that we were posting content as we were producing it. Most shows film everything, put it through post-production, and then put it up online. So we were able to watch the feedback from our fans and look at the development of the character chemistry and all of that, and we were able to actually write things and produce things to fit sort of the story arc really changed. It wasn't, I don't think, where we had intended to go, but we were able to adapt because we were posting as we were shooting, so that was a lot of fun. It was a steep learning curve, and we learned a lot season 1, but we got a really good product at the end. Yeah, we have 14 episodes plus some bonus material, about 3 hours of content from season 1. You can get all of it on our DVD. And what's crazy is that we had the most insane shooting conditions. I mean, there were days where we were out in snow and hail and like making the actors lie down in mud and like freezing ground. And then by the time we got to summer, that's of course when we had the guy in super heavy prosthetics and leather and armor and wigs, and it's like, I don't know, 85 degrees out in the sun. And we're shooting like a combat sequence, so there's sword fighting, and he had really thick prosthetics on, and he was so hot and he couldn't take any of it off that he actually started melting the prosthetics from the inside out.
We shoved his head in the freezer.
So we had to take him back. It was an emergency where like his prosthetics are cracking. You can like there was gel like running down his face. So we had to take him back to the house, and we made him stick his head in an upright freezer to try and we're making him eat popsicles to try to cool his core temperature down.
And he actually told me later, he's like, yeah, the face in the freezer didn't help so much, but man, those ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah, he was like, the popsicles were awesome. So that really helped a lot. But yeah, I think we had a much smaller crew and cast for season 1. So we were able to move quite quickly, and we had a lot of fun, and it was a lot of people doing everything and anything that you could. I mean, I did slate, I did on-set continuity, I acted, like it was so we all jumped around and helped out. So I think our core production group was about 10 people for first season, which is incredibly tiny, and the fact that we were able to produce something so awesome is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was insane. Like there was points where I was like, what are we doing? Like when, and then people, like we had no idea that people would love us as much as they did, and the fandom really, you know, the community online really embraced us, and it just sort of snowballed from there, and it was like, holy shit, people are paying attention to us.
Yeah.
Like, wow, like, because we were just doing it for fun to start off with. We were just like, let's go shoot some stuff in the woods. Let's be assholes with swords. Like, it was great. It was great. We were having so much fun, and I love costuming, and I was like, I get to make monsters. This is so cool. And then all of a sudden people were paying attention to us, and we're getting blog reviews, and it's like, wow, other people think we're cool too. This is awesome. So
I don't know. My mom always said I was cool, so I was pretty good with that.
I know. So yeah, so season 1 was an amazing adventure, and then the con season after that was really where we started pushing ourselves, and convention route really helped us with season 1, and that's how we, I think, got to season 2, is because so many people chipped in with our Indiegogo. That was what took us to all the way.
Yeah, it's the fans. It's you people, honestly.
yeah,
It's
totally.
you.
We love you
We
guys.
wouldn't be here without
We love
any
you
of you
all.
guys. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, after we finished season 1, it's kind of the thing where we ended up with this huge amount of content, right? So not only do we have the huge amount of content for season 1, we also have this really cool IP. So we've got all this stuff that is the standard action universe, and we've got all the history that sort of shows up in some of the episodes. We've got the characters that show up over and over again. So in between sort of season 1 and season 2, and how we're moving forward now is actually trying to use that IP in all sorts of different ways. So not only are we trying to, produce season 2, and we have produced it, it's in post-production right now, but also we're sort of branching out into some other things too, which are kind of exciting and interesting. And Rob, you want to tell us a little bit about that stuff?
Let's see, how many of you guys have seen standard action before? Raise your hands.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so
like
awesome.
the whole room.
That's
awesome.
fantastic. So you guys know what we're talking about. Okay, good.
And yeah, before I go into the products, I'd just like to point out, I was reading Penny Arcade in university like 6 years ago. I'd never been to PAX before, so the first time I get to come to PAX is because I'm promoting my
6 years
project.
ago? That was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
We're old.
so.
A
Yeah,
long
but yeah, it's
time
really
ago.
amazing actually to get here, 'cause we actually, like, most of us failed on getting tickets in time, so we wouldn't have been able to come to PAX at all if it wasn't for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
So, yeah, we wanted to make spin-off products, because, I like making films, so we made a couple web series and features, and I like making board games and computer games, so guess what we did? We made a card game. We had a game jam, so my friends over in Vancouver Island, they told me about that there are these clubs that get together, and they make a game, either a video game or a board game, in a day. So I was like, well, I make board game reviews with a girl who runs a board game store, and Joanna, who, like, we played all these board games, and we have all these other people we know who are really into that, so I invited them all over and had big bags of food and snacks, and we came up with a card game. We were able to basically make a card game. There's a print-on-demand website called The Game Crafter, and you guys can come up later and see this, but we basically made a game where you build a party of heroes, and you go on adventures. So there are adventure cards, encounter cards, we have items, because every game needs treasure, and then we actually went in and made cards for every single character from first season, and used screenshots from the game. And, like, I know this was actually quite fun for showing this to a lot of the actors we work with, because, a lot of actors don't get to be in a card game.
I'm a
so, yeah.
collectible.
I know, it's like, oh my god, I
There's-
have my
you can
own
have-
merch with my
Yeah,
face on it.
Yeah, you can have, there's Guinevere the Sorcerer, or Martin the Druid, or Snuffles the Badger,
Yeah.
Torval the Cleric, Veronica the Sorcerer. And yeah, everybody's in there. So that was a lot of fun, and that only took us like a day or two.
And we need to beta test it yet, so it's not for sale quite yet, but
Yeah.
it will be soon.
Some
we need
of-
to figure this out.
Some of the art needs to be redone because it's not very clear to read, but it's very close. And then the next thing is, that was really great, but that was like 4 months ago, and we started trying to, we're getting to the point where we're going to be starting to launch second season, and we're going to redo our website, and one of those things is, I was like, well, I'm a programmer by day, so it would be neat to have some projects that are programming related. And I started looking for pre-existing projects for, like, old massive multiplayer games from, like, BBSs. I don't know if any of you ever logged on to BBSs and played Lore, Legend of the Red Dragon. That was, like, a favorite of my childhood when I was 14 with the, the good old modem and the dialing sounds. So apparently these guys, like, 12 years ago made a PHP version that goes on websites. So that's called Legend of the Green Dragon, because this one's an open source project, and I found all that, and, like, nobody had even been on this forum for like 5 years. So I've downloaded the software that's free, and there's like 200 plugins of races and specialties, and you can have multiple cities, and we're still working on setting it up, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and yeah, we're going to encourage everyone to come play it. I don't think I'm going to be able to log in and play with this internet connection. But it's kind of funny because we had a tavern in our first season called The Lonely Dragon. And so when we renamed it, it ended up being LOL-D because it's Legend of the Lonely Dragon. So it should be pretty easy to remember.
I'm old.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's great because, like, even just coming out of the gate, we're going to have it that you can be a halfling or a elf or a human, or there's a few other races, and then you can be all the races of the main party members. And then, yeah, we're even looking at, there's another open source project I found where you can, it's like sort of like a Super Nintendo style game that you can play in the browser. So we'll be looking at launching that, or something that will be standard action themed for that probably in the next few months. So Yeah, we like to do a lot of stuff, so you should check our websites out. And we have a newsletter. I'm also running a newsletter that will link to all these and tell you when the board game is for sale.
And what's cool about the newsletter is it's got exclusive links to content, interviews, and behind-the-scenes stuff that you have to have the password that you can only get on the newsletter in order to view these. So if you want to see some of these really cool interviews and sneak peeks of costumes,
generally what we've been doing is that every time we only put a newsletter out once a month, and I'll release a public video, and while I'm editing up that public video, I will put together a private video for newsletter subscribers only. So we had a puppet, we got some kobold puppet prototypes built, and we filmed an improv scene with the kobold puppet, and that was a newsletter only. We might watch that today if we have time, but yeah, I think that's...
Becky the kobold?
Becky the kobold.
Yeah, Becky the kobold gets dumped.
Oh, you just gave it away.
Ah, spoilers! Come on.
Anyways, I think that's it for spin-off
All right,
products.
that was really fast, but the point is that we're
branching out.
Yeah, we're trying to really embrace the world of standard action. There's a lot of web series out there, and a lot of people make content online, and a lot of it's incredible and it's so cool. But what we're trying to do, well, I mean that's the wonderful thing about the internet, right? Is you can make anything you want, and I think that that's fantastic.
I guess we have a module coming out, maybe.
Well, maybe. We don't want to, yeah. I mean, we're basically trying to branch our content out into as many platforms as possible. So we're going to try and do like the analog style game where you can sit around and play with standard action stuff and standard action characters. We're going to try to get people online working with the text-based game and create a community. And, you know, I'm going to encourage as many of our cast and crew as possible to actually take part as well so that everybody is taking part in the world. As far as I'm concerned, web series and new media are all about community, and they're all about communications and talking to the fans. That's one of the wonderful things about new media is that we can talk directly to you guys, so we can go and play this text-based game and run around with you in this world. And I think like we're onto something big here, so I think we're going to try and do as much as we can with this content and with this IP.
And we're able to hear back from you guys directly, right?
And in the game, I'm a god named Trogdor.
And there's that.
That's important.
So we do have some new content from Season 2 to show you today. Before we do that, though, I want to know if there's any questions from you guys. We're blasting through this hour relatively quickly, so if you guys want to know anything about what we did or what we're planning.
We love questions.
Yeah.
We like to talk.
There's no microphone, so you're just going to have to yell. No questions? Questions?
Oh,
Yay.
question.
Red shirt.
Where did you actually film it? Because I know you're from Vancouver, but it's like a lot of places in Vancouver look like that.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, we filmed most of Season 1, the foresty stuff for Season 1 is in Coquitlam. So, actually, you want to talk a little bit about that?
It's basically my backyard.
It's a dog walk park behind an old condo.
If you've ever been to suburbia, you know that like 2 blocks of forest they have in the middle of suburbia to make all the people who live there feel like there's a natural place.
Where everybody walks their dog.
Yeah.
We, instead of yelling car, we'd yell dog walker, and then everyone would pull the net and the equipment out of the way.
Yeah.
But they're perfect at stopping right in the corner of your frame.
They're like, and they stop and they watch.
And
you're like,
watch.
no, you're out of the shot. Get out of the shot. And they're like, oh, this way? No.
Not only are we dealing with the elements when we, like Season 1, you know, if you're going to shoot a web series that, you know, takes place outdoors, don't start in November.
No.
And work your way through the winter.
Yeah, and our interior stuff for Season 1, the tavern was actually in the basement of the Fish House at Stanley Park.
A restaurant.
A restaurant. And then the hunter's cabin was Edwin's parents' garage.
And behind the tavern in episode 1 was Carla's backyard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we like backyards.
Yeah. Cheap or free is usually the name of the game for us for locations.
Carla, who is our art director, did some amazing things with that garage.
Yeah.
It's also the hunter's cabin in episode 7. So it's the tavern in episode 4. No, that was in Carla's place. Yeah, but that was pretty amazing too. Yeah, there's a prison in episode 10 and 11 that's actually your pool shed.
It's my pool shed.
Yeah.
A small corner of it too. Like there were kayaks behind you.
Yeah, it was only 2 walls. We only had access to 2 walls. We're like, oh, okay.
Only 4 crew could be in there at once.
And like I built it for the episode. Like I'm not creepy. I don't have a dungeon. My pool shed.
Doesn't everybody have a dungeon in their pool shed?
No?
Come on.
Yeah, actually, it might still be there.
It might.
And then the battle sequence was filmed out in Swassen.
So awesome. By Eric's house.
Yeah, so that those lovely fields full of buttercups and stuff is private land that we trespass.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Let's not say the trespassing word.
I think it was public land. We guerrilla shot a lot of first season.
Yeah.
It's called guerrilla filmmaking, not treasure.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
guerrilla film.
Yeah.
It's keeping it raw. It's keeping it real.
Yeah, it's not paying permits. Questions. Beard. Hi.
You're
That's an
so
amazing
eloquent.
beard. It's an amazing
so
beard.
eloquent.
Single aspect of my video. I was gonna say that when I was watching this before I knew where it was filmed, wow, that really looks like DC in the winter. Why would anyone?
Why would anyone film
My
that?
actual question is, you reference game mechanics in your film. I don't know if you've ever heard of. They don't. Why?
Well, actually, when I wrote the original scripts that we first showed Edwin and Rob when we were starting out, and I didn't even think they were going to be filmed, there were a whole lot more. There were a whole lot more game mechanics. There was a lot more, like, I wrote the characters based on D&D 3.5. As I was always
That was my second question.
Yeah, I was a 3.5 player. Rob introduced me to 3.5. That was the first game that I played.
By showing her the Gamers movie.
Yeah, so I know those guys, yeah. And the reason that I wrote the characters that I wrote, so the barbarian, the druid, the sorcerer, and the bard, was because Wizards came out with 4th Ed, and they dropped those 4 character classes from the game, and I was really upset.
God, that's awesome.
I was really upset that they did that. So I wrote those 4 characters as like the guys who were left out of the party because they're kind of lame and they're hard to play, and it's like, so I wrote those 4 just for fun, and there were a whole lot more references to like ability scores and stats and skill checks and that kind of thing. And I went to Rob with the scripts actually, and he's like, this is great, but you might alienate people a little bit with the amount of game mechanic stuff that's in here. So
I just watched all of the special editions Lord of the Rings to get ideas for stuff like shooting, and they always talked about how Tolkien made it very accessible, and so that's what I was pitching at her. Is like, if you go to one system, everybody who doesn't play that system isn't going to get the jokes, but if you make it more general, like a lot of those jokes even apply to World of Warcraft players and like,
MMOs
so,
stuff. Yeah, so
And
the thing
video
was
game,
that I wanted to keep it tongue-in-cheek. Like, I wanted to keep it so we weren't living in a fantasy world. Like, these weren't people who, like, I wanted everybody to still feel like we were in a game. It wasn't like, high fantasy. I didn't want it to feel like a fantasy world. I wanted it to feel like a game. I wanted to feel like these were avatars running around in a game. So we've got anachronistic references. Martin the Druid has Converse shoes on. We've got, that kind of thing that constantly hints at the fact that this isn't, like, we're not taking ourselves seriously.
Yeah, the design of the characters actually was very specific. We wanted them to look like video game avatars or comic book characters. So they have very specific color themes. They have very specific outlines and shapes. And then a lot of our other like guest stars and stuff are very much like NPCs. So they all look very similar. There's actually a lot of costume pieces that we reused on different people so that it would look very similar. In season 2, some of the characters in that, I really wanted them to look like somebody had just respawned multiple times. So we wanted it to feel very, very game-like and very self-aware, very self-referential, because it's funnier that way. I mean, it's making and we make so many references to so many other universes and fandoms. There's Easter eggs everywhere. There's references to so much stuff.
We loaded them in there. There's a whole lot of text. Like even that speech that you just saw with episode 8 when I'm talking to Martin about my past. I hit like 4 or 5 different
the Tam
references.
River.
The Tam River.
That's a Firefly reference.
The Gulf of
that
Balloon,
because I pushed
Lord of the Rings. We got they're all through it, and that's because we wanted it to be sort of self-effacing.
And we like stuff like that. Like in a lot of the Star Wars language, like there's all kinds of cool stuff written everywhere that a lot of people don't notice, and it's because I really like stuff like that when I see it in other movies and TV shows. So I was like, what would I really like to see? This is what so we worked a lot of that kind of stuff in just so that we could all go, yay, we're awesome.
Or I love it when people pick out a line and they're like, oh, that's a reference to this, and it'll be like the one person who got it out of 100 people who read it, and I'm like, yay.
Yeah, like my character Veronica Lagrange. We figured out that there's like 5 different
nerd
Lagrange
Lagrange
because it's from Star Trek. It's a science thing. It was a really obscure video game released in Japan, and it is also the production studio for Alan Parsons. Like there's so many different references, and there's so many different levels of references in the show.
It's also in my favorite science fiction trilogy, which I don't know if anybody's ever read, by Peter F. Hamilton, called The Reality Dysfunction. You should.
Oh yeah, so Lagrange. So even
good.
things like that where you hear somebody's last name once, like so much thought was put into all of that stuff.
Usually.
And sometimes it's like, what's a funny? Sometimes it's like, what sounds funny?
Well, it's like Bob the Adventurer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob the Cleric.
Bob the Cleric.
Cleric.
That was just fun.
Yep. Any other questions? Hi.
So for such a small crew, you're all doing different, various aspects of it. Do you enjoy doing multiple jobs like editing, producing, writing, or do you kind of wish that you could do just one? Or do you like that aspect of doing multiple things?
Well, I'd like to ask everybody that, actually. Why don't we start with Rob down here?
I continually see as a filmmaker that if you don't do all aspects at least a couple times, that you're just not the same kind of filmmaker. Editing, like when I'm on set and shooting and setting up cameras, we've never been able to do storyboarding because we'll storyboard an area in the forest and then we'll come there to shoot and there are people playing paintballs there. So we have to move, and suddenly that changes the entire dynamic of the scene and the storyboard gets thrown out. So eventually we learn that no plan is a good plan. And I don't think that it would look anything as good as it does if I hadn't spent 2 years filming, writing, directing, and producing 2 feature films, and then doing all the post-production. There's still a long way for me to learn for a lot of things, but it helps me as a director when I'm on set that I know how to edit and I know what we need. I also know that as running a crew, it feels more hectic to be it, but we had a larger crew this year and suddenly I'm like, wow, we only did 6 pages today, but we worked our butts off. Why is it taking so much longer? And it's because we spend time waiting for the one person who has to do the specific job to show up, or I don't as the person running the set feel that it's as good for a small indie crew to be a big crew. So
yeah, I think that I was an actor first. And a writer to a lesser extent. The reason I started producing is because, as far as I was concerned, as an actor in Vancouver, there just wasn't any decent roles for me. As a 25 to 35-year-old brown-haired female, there's like a billion of us and hardly any roles, and so I started writing stuff that I wanted to be in. And actually, having that experience of producing, so the whole picture from beginning to end, as well as having my hands in the editing process and the post-production process, makes me a better actor by far. Because I understand how everything fits, and I get why, it's not all about you. There's actors that you bring on set, and they don't understand the whole process of it, so they're really focused on one particular aspect of it, and they can't see the forest for the trees, And I think it really helps. It's really hard work. It's really, really hard work, and we work many, many, many hours in the day. But I think it makes us better.
Our shoot days aren't that long though.
No, the shoot days aren't
when you
long,
go, I've helped my other friends on their shoot days, and they are 16 to 18-hour shoot days to get done what we do in 12. We didn't do, I think we might have done 1 or 2 max 16-hour shoot days in total of both seasons.
Oh God, yeah, if that.
I felt like we were failing if we weren't finishing early. So.
What do you think, Edwin?
Please get me out of here. Just no. I am an actor first, but like I said, I love costuming, I love creating, I love making things, and being part of this crew lets you be so many other things, because it's, there's so much to be done, and you get to learn from all the things that you do, and I genuinely enjoy it. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. If I didn't care for any of the other stuff of it, I would just, cut myself out of it, but I have gotten a chance to do things on this crew that I have not been able to do working with other people. You show up to set and you're just the actor. You're just the actor for the one day, and that's where it ends, right? Your opinion isn't heard.
They tell you where to go.
They tell you where to go, what to do, how to do it, and then that's it. Okay, good. You go home, right? But here, I get to be part of the creative process of what
you don't
the show
get to,
is.
you have to be.
Yeah, you have to be.
It's
There
not a
is
get
no
to.
choice.
This is an Edwin. I need you to go do this.
We
now.
are all
Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah.
One of the things we did discuss though earlier on, was that anybody who came onto the crew should be able to multitask and would want to multitask. We were very much upfront about that stuff when we were doing the casting for the show. It was that, you know, what else could you do? What else would you like to do as part of the crew? So everybody who's here, I feel, or at least I felt originally, you know, wanted to do more than just the one thing, or was interested in learning how to do things outside of what their main thing was. And I've enjoyed it. I loved it.
Yeah, I like multitasking. I like being really busy, and honestly, I'm good at more than just one thing. I'm good at a lot of things, and if I can bring more to the production and make us better and push us farther, then absolutely. And I think if we all hadn't multitasked and worked our asses off, we wouldn't be where we are. So it's. I think we all really enjoy it. I would like more sleep.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That's sure. I would like to be able to pay rent. But you know, we're getting there. We're slowly making our way. So yeah, I mean that it's that you know, I'd like to see my friends that aren't part of Standard Action occasionally.
No.
That was in your contract. Remember that.
I can only socialize with you.
You get to have friends.
Why aren't we good enough for you?
I know. So yeah. Oh. I have friends. Couple. But yeah, no, I love multitasking, and it lets me branch out and explore things that I wouldn't get a chance to otherwise. And there's been some things where like I've tried this, I don't know that this is for me. So so it's been a really cool experience to do so much. And it gives you a lot more ownership too. Because which is both a good and a bad thing, because sometimes you're like, I made this is awesome, I did all this cool stuff, and sometimes you're like, oh shit, I forgot to do something, or I screwed it up, or I'm really sick and I can't do it today. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword on that for sure, but the ownership and the responsibility is kind of cool.
Personally, I love all of the jobs that I do for Standard Action, and I'd be hard-pressed to take a step away from that. But that being said, I do find that personally I have to be careful to, you know, concentrate on both aspects, because I feel that if I don't put everything I have into, you know, splitting my attention properly, then I'm going to miss something, or I'm not going to do the best job that I can at both of these things. So it is difficult, but I love it.
I think that we've all had an opportunity to grow, really, with Standard Action, because we can do different things on set and pick up jobs that need to be done. I started as a stills photographer and moved on to second camera, and I love it. And yeah, it's challenging because we work like an organism. We each have like changing roles and have to be careful not to step on toes and make sure shit gets done.
Yeah.
And it really works for us, I think. And yeah, with second season I had a bigger crew, and that things got shook up a little bit, I think, and it takes some time to grow and change as an organism too. So.
Yep, always learning.
Yeah.
Ashley?
I'm pretty sure out of everyone, I do the least amount of multitasking.
I don't know. You do a lot.
All the creatures, man.
Yeah, compared to a professional set, you do a lot of jobs.
But I find that's in the job description for indie makeup artist.
There you go.
Transfer your actors to set. I guess the only other multitasking thing is I put in lunch.
Yeah, you host it.
Well, yeah,
you host it every day.
We film at your house, so you're, you know.
Locations.
Key hairstylist, key makeup artist, prosthetics artist, applying the prosthetics, transporting people to set. Yeah, I think you do a lot.
Locations, transport, catering, yeah.
And you just sit there and look pretty too. Like you
Head of department, you hire other makeup artists?
Yeah.
I'm very good at that.
You are.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have
Do we have any
really
other questions in the audience?
I have a costume question. And trying to balance that, you know, budgeting and saving money, but also finding good fabrics that fit the characters. Where do you guys like to look for fabrics?
Do you know Vancouver very well?
I've been there twice.
Okay. We did a lot of thrifting for season 1, so lots of Value Village, lots of Goodwill. I've been doing costumes and fashion since I was little, and I'm a hardcore thrifter. Like, I'm a shopping ninja, quite honestly. Like, I can find pretty much anything for cheap. But in Vancouver, there's an amazing fabric store called Dresso, and they have a clearance floor, and I actually go probably once a week. and I just look and see if there's anything interesting. I may not have a character in mind or plan for it, but if it's a good fabric, I will buy it. And so I have bins, like I have a mountain of fabric and costumes at my house. But yeah, as far as it's refitting things, so you're looking for interesting textures, interesting shapes, stuff that can be altered. And then, yeah, just thrifting. And then the other cool thing about Vancouver is that it's such a big film town. So when you have TV shows and movies that stop or are canceled or wrap filming, they sell all their stuff off. And so I was able to buy some amazing, interesting costume bits and pieces and fabric and leather from like the Stargate set
Yeah,
sale
we do a lot of
and
sci-fi in
Smallville,
Vancouver,
and
so there's
so stuff like that. So yeah, so like in the dungeon in episode 9, you see a skull with a little omega sign on the forehead. That was from Smallville. That was one of the from I can't remember what's his face is evil at the end of the season. Yeah, it was so yeah. So there's a lot of stuff like that was able to. And I'm a pack rat, so I've got fabric that I use on some of those guys that I've had for 5 years. So
the other thing too is that because we're trying to stay under budget for a lot of this stuff, right? And make it as cheap as possible, but make it look good. Is that sometimes you work with fabrics that are very difficult to work with.
And so yeah, if you know your fabric well, and it's how to cheat stuff, so lining and doubling up on fabric, and then glue spray paint. I do a lot with plastics and different fibers and stuff. And then for second season, we have everybody leveled up, so we have like real chainmail and leather armor and stuff like that. So that was calling in a lot of favors to people that I know in the industry, because there were quite a few people, because I work on pro sets quite a bit, and there were people that I knew would be like, I was like, so you know how you said you'd help? I need blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and like our fight choreographer rented for free all of our weapons for second season and stuff like that. So it was a lot of favors from friends and colleagues to get stuff for very cheap or free. And then, yeah, beg, borrowing, and stealing whatever we could.
Don't discount thrift stores. I know Edwin found a jacket for like one of these fighters in one of the early episodes, and like I want that jacket for my costume because it's like it was like padded, it looked like padded armor, but I think it was
actually a it was a coat. It was
it was a woman's
coat.
And it was inside out?
No, it wasn't inside out. It was just. This is the thing, right? Like Vanessa was saying, sometimes things you just see them and they look interesting. You don't know what you're gonna do with them.
But you buy it.
But you buy it because it's cheap.
And it's cool and it's one of a
useful.
kind. Yeah.
And what this coat was just this gigantic woman's coat with a hood, and it looked like padded armor, or the material, the way it was built. So I was able to break it apart and then rebuild it to look like padded armor for one of these guys.
And it looks awesome.
It was great.
And then
so good.
same thing with Astrid, the ranger, the little elven ranger.
Oh yeah.
Her leather armor, it looks like leather that's been stitched together. That was actually a man's suit jacket from like the late 80s. Oh my god, it was disgustingly ugly.
Up from Seattle,
we got it at the Goodwill in Seattle, and it was. So I ripped the sleeves off, I re-steamed the collar and did some cool embroidery and then wrote Elvish all over it, and it looks like amazing leather armor, and it's like a blazer. Seriously, it's like, it was nasty. It was ugly.
Crocheted.
It was crocheted leather bits stuck together, and it was like, who would wear this as a blazer? Like, you can see some fat old guy with cowboy boots wearing it and thinking he looks badass. Like, that's what it originally had been, and then we were able to transform it. So it's being able to see beyond what is presented to you, and just really knowing
the material. If the material looks
knowing
interesting,
texture. A lot of it's texture, and that's where a lot of costume designers that are just beginning or amateurs, it's texture is so important. Texture and drape.
And for film is different than cosplay. Like we go to, and I see cosplay costumes that are way more detailed than what we would use on set, because we don't.
You can cheat a lot.
And cosplayers, they spend hundreds of dollars on their costumes. Like, they have a budget of like $40 for a fighter. So like,
yeah.
Okay, so if there aren't any other burning questions, I'd like to move on and show you something from second season.
Yeah, you guys are the first to see it.
Yes.
Okay, so this is.
I haven't even seen
We
it.
haven't seen it either.
Don't clap yet.
Okay. So how this is going to work is that this is special for you guys who came to see this panel. We're really excited that you guys came out, and we wanted to give you something special for coming out. This is not finished. this is not perfect. It's not going to be polished. If you notice anything wrong with the sound or the visuals, that's because it's not done yet, and it's just for you guys. So. Yeah, I haven't seen the final product either, so if you guys even want to go out that way.
I'm gonna go sit out there.
Yeah.
So you want to shut the